Yes, the topic of emergency is a low hanging fruit, I know. Another thing that everyone knows is why Indira Gandhi imposed the emergency. The JP movement was blowing up. The result of state of Uttar Pradesh versus Raj Narayan threatened her position. The country had recently concluded a war with Pakistan, and additional challenges of drought and the 1973 oil crisis left the economy tottering. These were some of the major reasons for the proclamation of emergency. Everybody also knows the horrible excesses that the executive committed during this time. Suppression of the press, arrest of opposition leaders, mass demolition of property in the name of beautification, and of course, forced sterilization drives.
Snip.
To know more about the above incidents, you can watch any one of the literally hundreds of videos on the matter. Our topic of discussion today will be confined to why did Indira Gandhi lift the emergency in the first place. There are many reasons floated around as to why she took this step, but none of them give us a concrete explanation or a definitive answer. What shrouds her decision in mystery is in the manner she halted the emergency and announced elections without consulting anyone. Even her son Sanjay was surprised. In fact, journalist Kuldeep Nair in his book on leaders and icons recalls Sanjay telling him that he had expected that his mother would not call elections for 3 to 4 decades. Therefore, when Mrs. Gandhi did exactly that after just 21 months, everyone, especially her son, were aghast. The sudden decision making was perfectly described by a popular news anchor at the time.
Suddenness. The sheer suddenness of the move, the unexpected nature of the move, the unpredictability of the move, the fact that there was
jokes
no
apart.
warning.
Ramachandra Guha, a noted historian, gave the following views on the incident. On 18 January 1977, Prime Minister announced that the parliament be dissolved and fresh elections be held. This came as a surprise to her political opponents, who were let out of their cells even as the announcement was being made on All India Radio. It came as a shock to Sanjay, who too had not been informed beforehand. The term of the present parliament could have been extended year after year. The underground resistance had been fully tamed, and yet Mrs. Gandhi decided suddenly and without consulting anyone to return India to democracy. There are two key points to be understood here. 1. The resistance against her had mellowed, and 2. It was perfectly legal and well in her power to continue and rule the country. So, what happened? Since there are so many narratives which claim to have nudged her towards a final decision, we'll divide them into 3 spheres: international factors, domestic factors, and personal factors. Let us begin with the international factors. First, the obvious reason: global criticism. The Times of London called the emergency a coup only 5 days later after the president signed away Indian democracy. The New York Times referred to Indira Gandhi as the dictator of India. She was strongly condemned by the German chancellor at the time. Another factor which could have changed her mind is the announcement of elections by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the then Prime Minister of Pakistan. A usually autocratic neighbor holding elections while a bastion of democracy like ours constantly delaying them would have looked quite ugly. A final global factor which could have influenced Mrs. Gandhi came from all the way across the Atlantic. One anecdote says that it was US President Jimmy Carter who persuaded her to go legitimate and call for fresh elections. This anecdotal evidence, however, is quite sketchy and also the least plausible out of the 3. Let's move on to the domestic factors. Now these are the most well-known reasons and considered closest to the truth. Primarily, it is said that her intelligence chief had assured her that the Congress would be re-elected with a comfortable majority. Isolated from public opinion, she was unaware of the extent to which her rule had become unpopular. A secondary factor connected to the first one was that Mrs. Gandhi hoped that by winning the elections, she could legitimize the emergency and also pave the way for her son Sanjay to succeed her. Her principal secretary P.N. Dhar offered yet another explanation. The emergency, he noted, had cut Mrs. Gandhi off from the public contact that had previously nourished her. She was nostalgic about the way people reacted to her in the 1971 campaign and longed to hear the applause of the masses. But there's one more account which points towards a much more perplexing scenario. Way back in November 1976, Indira Gandhi had told H.Y. Sharda Prasad, who was her information advisor, in strict confidence that I'm going to call off the emergency and hold elections. But even though the Intelligence Bureau is saying that I will win 330 seats, I know that I'm going to lose. On February 2nd, 1977, again she told Mr. Prasad, I'm sure to lose the elections. But she followed by making a cryptic remark saying, it will be a relief if I lose. An absolute relief. It is nearly impossible to confirm the veracity of these claims. Anecdotes cannot be treated as concrete proof. We can't ask Mr. Prasad himself because he passed away in 2008. But if Mr. Prasad's claims are true, it only adds more layers of intrigue and mystery behind Indira Gandhi's decision. The answer to these riddles could perhaps be found in her personal life. Mary C. Karras, her biographer, has argued that throughout her life, her self-image had been that of a Democrat. Thus, it was deduced by some analysts that when Mrs. Gandhi became aware of the emergency excesses and realized that matters were getting out of hand, she decided to get out of this trap by holding elections, even if it meant losing power. Perhaps it was the teachings and the legacy of her father Jawaharlal Nehru, a die-hard Democrat, which convinced her to put an end to the authoritarian regime she had propped up. Also, it is said that from September 1976 onwards, Indira Gandhi was beginning to get disillusioned with the emergency and was implementing measures to retake power from her younger son Sanjay Gandhi, who was at the center of many atrocities committed during this dark phase. Therefore, it could be said that Indira Gandhi chose democracy over tyranny because she was more the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru than the mother of Sanjay Gandhi. With access denied to classified documents from the Home Ministry, and along with the fact that the press was bound by stringent pre-publication censorship at the time, we have to draw upon anecdotes, surmises, and circumstantial evidence to explain the mystical thought process behind Mrs. Gandhi's decisions. Was it to look morally superior in comparison with her neighbors? Was it because of the pressure from a US president? Or maybe she sensed an opportunity because of the dubious intelligence reports to tighten her grip over the country. Perhaps it was to protect the legacy of her father, for which he had toiled tirelessly. Or maybe it was to protect her son from the ever-corrupting nature of power. We cannot say for sure. We can only draw rough inferences from the above evidences and theories. Most of them are just speculations and can't be treated as indisputable truth. But what we can say with absolute certainty is that Mrs. Gandhi's call to hold fresh elections after a dark and repressive period, whether in good faith or not, resuscitated Indian democracy and put it back on track. This single decision taken by one woman remains a major cornerstone in Indian history, whose ripples we will continue to feel for a long time. It's a shame that we may never get to know the reason which led to this pivotal moment.